And now we have time for open discussion. So if you know of a topic that we haven't touched on that you'd like to talk about, now's a good time. Or maybe you have some questions that you didn't get answered in the last 2 days. So just go ahead and jump in as you feel like it.
Hey, Dennis, who do I send my charts to?
Oh, send them to David Brandt
Who?
Erickson.
Who?
I'll send you an email, Stephen.
Okay, thanks.
I'm still reeling from Blaze's discussion of wrinkles in the tether.
Yeah, I know. It's the ugliness of reality, huh?
Mind you, if we've got Doug's nanobots operating inside the tether, that's problem solved, isn't it, Doug?
Yeah, they can fix it.
Sure.
Absolutely. We're done.
Okay, we got Damien.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how long do you think it would be before you had an initial space elevator set up, and how long to reach, the point that Stephen was talking about in his presentation with, 1,000 tons a day going up and down? Just like rough estimate.
Nobody wants to answer that.
Well, I'll
Well,
answer
how much
that.
money do you got?
Yeah, that's the key
Yeah.
question. How much money do you have?
Yeah.
Basically, if we were starting now with like 10 or 12 billion dollars, we could probably do it by 2037 to 2040. Now, to get to Stephen's estimates, I'm going to leave that to him. I can't. I'm just talking about a preliminary space elevator that works one tether climber a day and 20-ton climbers. That's my estimate.
To me, it's always about the funding profile. Certain things you can pull back to the left with enough funding. If you're piecemealing funding, you could be talking decades. However, if I find somebody that says, "Hey, I have $10 trillion, how quickly can I get one?" That's a lot different answer than milking it out for decades.
Yep.
So it really now, but there's certain things you just can't pull back to the left with money. Certain things have to be developed. That takes time. Other stuff, more money, the quicker you get it.
I think one question is for Adrian. What is the outlook for tether quality material in quantity, the sort of quantity we need? You've talked about some forms of polycrystalline graphene, which are actually pretty good and good enough for space elevators. But what's the outlook?
Yeah. Right. So there was an interesting presentation yesterday from Rod, wasn't there, Pete? That his view is that he can make single crystal graphene just given enough money. The only thing that's holding him back is cash. It's pretty much what Steve and Pete have already been saying at the moment. Rod could probably get a program up and running within probably about 5 or so years if you just threw money at it to get industrial scale quantities of material made. That would probably get you the Elon Musk footbridge.
He wouldn't. He wouldn't do that in his
No, he
lab.
wouldn't do that, but he'd solve the science problems that are needed to be solved to get there at the moment. I do know there are 4 sort of organizations, including Rod, who are working on this problem at the moment. They're all held up with money. To a certain extent, the investors like to throw money at AI and computers because they understand that stuff. We've got.
I think they throw money at it because they don't understand it. They think it's better than it really is.
Yeah, very good point, John. Yes, and actually, they might be throwing money at a series of bubbles that's about to burst. People are going to be disappointed with AI.
Because the tether material is the thing. If we can get tether material being manufactured, the rest of it follows.
Yeah.
because there'd be enough momentum then somebody would be prepared to put a lot of money in if they can
Yeah.
see the stuff
Yeah.
being
Well,
manufactured.
the obstacles to making the tether material are falling away one by one. I mean, Rod's presentation yesterday confirmed something that Dennis and I were talking about a little while back. Dennis, you recall you looked at some of the reaction kinetics for making graphene at speed because we're going to
Right.
make this stuff fast. And Dennis, you reckon that it can be the kinetics mean that we can make it pretty fast already, can't we?
About 6 square meters a second.
Yeah. And Rod came in with his presentation yesterday, basically saying that he's looked at reaction kinetics as well as Dennis has, and he's come up with the same sort of figure. We don't know exactly what figure Rod came up with because he didn't say, but he just said speed of manufacture of graphene isn't a problem. This stuff can be made fast. So that's not an issue. The Rod identified a couple of other issues to do with separating the graphene from the substrate. We know other people are looking at that as well, and my guess is that's probably not going to be as big an issue as Rod thinks. So it's a difficult question to answer, but let's assume, Steve's point is that we get somebody throwing money at this problem, and they're driven either by Steve's fantastic return on investment of mining asteroids and stuff, where you can just generate trillions of value, or you have somebody who wants to write their name in the history books where they just become the name associated with building a space elevator. And both of those are powerful motivating factors that could unlock large amounts of money. The other thing is the Chinese have I think, Pete, you made me aware of this. The Chinese have a target, is it 2045, the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China?
Yeah.
And they've announced a while back that they have a grand vision to create a space elevator by 2045. How real or otherwise that is, we don't know. We've got no way of telling. But the Chinese certainly have the resources, the capability, and what they might be doing is just holding back and looking at all the other developments and looking to see who cracks various problems, and then they do the classic fast follower thing of coming in and finishing off the problems that everybody else has solved and doing it far faster than anybody else has. All of that's a long way around of saying that if I had to stick a finger in the air, given enough money, a couple of decades from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Avery.
Yes, I would offer a suggestion for the competition, the space elevator competitions, that they add descending climbers instead of strictly ascending. And the real trick is for a team to have two climbers, one starting at the top and descending, and one starting at the bottom and ascending. And the trick is figuring out how to get them to pass, right? And so the competition is not how fast your climber can go from the bottom to the top, but you have to get the top climber to the bottom and the bottom climber to the top. Whichever is longest that's your time. So just a suggestion from an interesting variation for the next level of space elevator competition.
Two panda bears.
Yeah, 2 pandas. Yeah.
I don't know about 2 panda bears. I'd go for 2 elevators for that case. Have one for the upstream, one for the downstream, and save yourself the trouble of figuring out how to pass.
Martina?
Hey, so I'm quite new to space and elevators, though not new to aerospace, and I do have a physics degree, but I'm still curious, like when you have space elevators and these other structures we discussed yesterday and today, what is being done to mitigate potential unwanted impacts? I mean, like from something like planes, rockets, asteroids, not necessarily the big ones, but the small ones that fly all the time, something like satellites or space debris.
Unscheduled disassemblies, right? Pete, you want to handle that?
Yeah, okay. We have a tremendous amount of information, a whole bunch of reports and stuff about the environment of the space elevator. The simple one is in the middle of the Pacific and you've got airplanes. Nobody flies along the equator, but what we do is we put up flashing lights and you do a NOTAM. In the aerospace world, they put NOTAMs out that says, don't fly over the Washington Capitol and stuff like that. So aircraft and that, they're not a problem. Then you talk about space debris. We've got 2 reports on that, and we talk about it in many different ways. One of which is you build the tether so it survives the little stuff. Then you move the tether for the big stuff, and we move it by moving the base or stopping movement of the space elevator climbers going up. It all adds dynamics to the motion of the tether. So we move out of the way of the big stuff. And if you want to get in more details, there's 2 study reports on our website for that. So we have assessed the threats for the space elevator almost across the board. If you can think of new ones, we'd love to hear about it so we can talk about it and understand it. But the operations of a transportation infrastructure are very similar to a bridge or whatever. So you've got to have repair, replacement, all that kind of stuff. And you have to have control of the transportation infrastructure that's going on your train track. And yes, there are a lot of issues that we have to deal with. And we've addressed many of them. We wouldn't want to say all, but we'd love to hear about any that you think of that are serious that we haven't thought about.
How about like the smaller asteroids that like maybe they burn in the atmosphere, but above it can be almost like a bullet, maybe? Or
Right.
satellites or things
Yep.
like terrorist attacks.
Well, terrorist attacks, we're going to have a really good Navy around our space elevator, hired Navy with hired Marines and hired scuba divers, and we'll have radars looking for airplanes and all that. So terrorism is the same thing that they have at Cape Canaveral and they have at Kennedy Space Center and they have at the airports around the world. We'll have anti-terrorist operations as well as the engineering stuff. So, yes, if you think transportation infrastructure, we're addressing all those issues. Now, the asteroid is one that you mentioned, kind of interesting. Small asteroids are scarce but damaging. And so if something hits it, it would be like an asteroid hitting the Golden Gate Bridge. It would happen, it would be damaging. What do we do about it? I have no idea. But the probabilities of an asteroid hitting the Golden Gate Bridge are pretty small. It's about the same thing. Those are addressed in those 2 survivability reports. You can look at those.
Yeah, and how about like satellites? Like, is everything like
That's in
away
the
from the
that's in
satellites?
the
Or
that's in the book. It turns out NASA was kind enough to give us density information in basically low Earth orbit and other places of how many pieces of junk are there, how many spacecraft operational are there, and all that kind of stuff at all the different altitudes. And we calculated the probability of conjunction. And then we talked about that, how often you'd have to move the tether and all that. So they also then gave us data for the density of space systems for 2020. Wait a minute, it was 2010, 2019, and then they were nice enough to project for the density in space for all the new constellations that are coming in by 2030. So they predicted what is Starlink and the other constellation of satellites at low Earth orbit. And then they gave us a density of spacecraft per altitude range going up and down. So we could predict the probability of conjunction between those a constellation of satellites against our own little space elevators. Now, just for your info, I actually calculated the constellation of Iridium, which is 100 satellites in low Earth orbit back in the 2000 time period. So the methodology has been used for operational satellites that was then applied to the 2 study reports.
yeah, or do you think that like satellites would be instructed like to avoid it? Like, because like if you look at Starlinks, like according to the report like from May 2025, there were Starlinks had to do 144,000 collision avoidance maneuvers in the 6 months.
Yes, and they do
right?
more of them to make sure they don't hit the space elevator, because if they hit the space elevator, it probably wouldn't hurt the space elevator, but it would hurt, it damage, it destroy a Starlink.
It would
Okay.
destroy the space elevator too.
Pardon?
It would also destroy the space elevator.
I don't think so. The angle of impact is important, and there's coming from 360 degrees. If it hit it square on, it would probably move the space elevator, but I don't think it would cut the space elevator. And besides, we'll be predicting conjunctions for everybody. We'll be working with the space debris community and their projection of conjunctions with our space elevators. By the way, this is an area I think AI will be superb on. It'll take all the data from all the tracking of all the stuff in space, project for the next 12 to 24 hours of any conjunction between any of those objects and the space elevator. So the AI will then predict the probability of conjunction and give us a warning. So, AI is going to be a great help to the community of conjunctions in space.
Can I add to that the fact that we've done a lot of work with AI in fusion technology to do just what Pete was saying, to be able to forecast and that using that type of technology. So it does have good advantages.
This is a perfect problem for AI. Huge amount of data, huge amount of variations, prediction from collected data. I mean, it's perfect for AI.
Yeah, has anyone done like simulations? Like I'm sure you guys have, but like if this thing's like falls, what are the impacts?
There's been a lot of study in that stuff.
The bottom
Huge
line
amount of
is
study.
the elevator is very thin. So if it falls, it will not be falling fast. It's a high surface area, low mass per unit length structure, and it will, once it gets into the atmosphere, it's going to slow way down.
It'll just float down, because except if they've got a spacecraft, a tether climber below the cut. But those are all discussed in the reports. Go read the reports.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. There's a
By the
reason
way,
why I said I'm new to this. I'm probably asking very
yeah.
basic questions.
No,
And
go ahead, read the reports, send me an email, ask me questions.
okay.
I'd love to respond to you. I kind of like touch base on that whole arena. It's a very challenging one, and it's definitely a big concern that we have to deal with operationally.
Yeah, and the report probably also talks about like maintenance, right?
God, I don't want to talk about maintenance.
You don't want to talk about maintenance? Like you have
No,
like
man, no way, Jose, man. I don't want to get into that.
you
Yeah,
have several thousand like kilometers of like tethers and you don't want to talk about maintenance. Okay.
it's a transportation infrastructure. So take the parallel with the bridge. What type of maintenance do they need? We'll need that. We're going to have a huge maintenance team,
Well,
everything else.
that's like a little different, right? Plus, I have seen I'm based in Pittsburgh, and from time to time bridges fall. So
Yeah,
I have seen what it looks like when a bridge falls, right?
yeah.
But if you have like a tether that falls,
There's a very nice report that's 150 pages long that describes what happens when the tether is cut from 10 feet off the ground all the way up to geosynchronous and beyond. It was done by a professor down in Australia, and I apologize, I don't have his name, but it was called something like the severing of the tether for space elevators. And he did like, I'm guessing, 200 cuts, and then he followed the tether below and above it to show where it went. So we've got a very good description of what happens if the tether's cut.
I'd love to have a link to that paper if anyone knows where it is. So pop it in the notes.
Yeah, I've lost track of it. It's someplace. It's probably in Peter Robinson's package of stuff on Zotero. It's probably there someplace.
do you remember the name of the professor who wrote
Nope,
it?
nope. Professor Williams. Boy, that's coming out of nowhere. Don't quote me on it, but if you want to look up Professor Williams, it might be Professor Williams.
Okay, and the main
Yeah.
report you are talking about is probably on
I
your
have no
website,
idea
like
what-
the main report, right?
I have
assume.
no idea what the report name is or anything else. It was done 20 years ago, 18 years ago.
I meant the other report you were talking about.
Oh, the two reports on our website for
Okay.
survivability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just go to our 2010, 2019 survivability reports.
Thank you.
Martina, I've sent you a link in chat to one of our newsletter articles that Blaze and I did, where we looked at what would happen if space debris actually impacted a tether made from graphene laminate.
Yeah, thank you.
You might find that interesting.
Yeah. For the capsule, I assume that the capsule would have some kind of like parachutes.
Those are all
Like-
questions we have to answer. We don't have a clue.
Okay.
You're walking into a beginning, embryonic portion of space elevators. We got a lot of information, but we got more questions.
Okay.
Okay, Doug's been waiting patiently, so go ahead.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, first, congratulations on another great conference. You guys are so smart and are on to such tough topics. I learn a huge amount every time I come to these, and this is only my second one, but it's really amazing to behold. You know, that said, now what I see is inside ISEC, there's a huge level of confidence that what we're talking about is going to happen. Absolutely, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of money and time. And I have that same confidence too when I listen to you. Outside of ISEC, there's the problem, I think, is a big high level of skepticism. You know, it's basically a public perception that no way, no how you could never do this. And those kind of things are sort of natural. You can point back into multiple points of history and see that the public perception was that this will never happen. And then 20 years later, it does happen. And I think that's exactly where we are right now. So I guess what I'm wondering is there's been a lot of talk about how to get the full scale structure built. And I'm sorry, Adrian, I missed your talk this morning because it was in the wee hours of the morning for me. But tether is a key part of it. Manufacturing tether at length is a key part of it. And I guess I'm wondering if there's maybe a direction that ISEC could take that's not necessarily toward the full-scale tether, but to what I might call a half-kilometer demonstration project, where potentially you manufacture a half a kilometer of real graphene laminate and you hang it from a cable suspended between two skyscrapers, or maybe better yet, you go find a skyscraper that's under construction because they've already got a crane sticking out here. They've already got permits to lift heavy loads. And you hang that real graphene tether half a kilometer length down to the ground. And then you show people that you can pick up something really, really heavy, something that's obviously heavy. Like my recommendation would be go get a Rivian SUV and pick that up as a one-upmanship to Musk throwing a Tesla out in space. And if you can show people, including journalists who will put this on TV, that look, this thin cellophane-like ribbon can pick up this 3-ton Rivian SUV and haul it way up to the top of the skyscraper and then bring it back down again safely, you've demonstrated that the concept is real, and all you need is to scale that ribbon to larger lengths. And you've already shown them that you can pick up something heavy. I guess I'm wondering if ISEC might be the right organization to do or to plan out a half-kilometer scale demonstration within, say, 10 years or whatever. I don't know what the time frame is, but maybe you could tell me.
That
Yeah,
sounds
you're-
like something WSpec could do. I mean, they're talking about 1 kilometer tethers for the climber competition, so
Okay.
they might have a leg up on that kind of infrastructure.
Yeah. And Dennis, you certainly said that the show and tell that you saw at the conference for WSpec really grabbed everybody's attention, and the local news channel came in.
That's
as
right.
well.
They were on local television.
Yeah. So you have a
Yeah,
point, Doug.
but in those cases, aren't they climbing a steel cable?
Probably, is it
I think
some kind of
it's
composite?
Kevlar, isn't it?
Kevlar, yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So, yeah, and it's a para-aramid fiber cable
Okay.
for this competition, but it's about it. Yeah, a big part of the competitions and a big benefit we get from it is exactly that: is the publication, the visibility of the space elevator concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Douglas, I agree with you 100%. In my planning, which has not been going ahead because there's no funding, my planning is always to hang a real tether from a production like the South Koreans, hang it from a bridge in New Mexico that's 1 mile above the
Yeah, right.
Rio Grande,
Yeah.
and then have tether climbers go up and down. That's always been my plan as one of the engineering projects immediately upon getting money. And I'd asked Adrian, you advertised 1 kilometer length tether, not tether final material, but graphene material in South Korea. Those 1 meter and 1 kilometer, I presume, are still on copper or something, and we'd have to do the separation and stuff. But it would seem to me that if we could get one of those 1,000-meter tether length type activities, then we could do exactly what Douglas is suggesting, is hang it from someplace and run stuff up and down. So, I think you're right on, Douglas. We need to have a visible achievement that shows progress in space elevator development.
Doug, I'll just pick up on Pete's point there. I'll just give you an insight into my world. See, there's a sort of a weird psychology going on in the graphene community at the moment. So it goes all the way back to about 10, 15 years ago, where people looked at, this was work done for graphene powders, and they were separating out the graphene. They needed to have few layers. And so they've come up with this idea, and it's embedded in an ISO standard, that when graphene is less than 10 layers, it's valuable, and when it's more than 10 layers, it's graphite, and therefore it's a pejorative term, graphite. But that applies to powders. And as you and I know, there's this whole other material, which is large area graphene, which can then be stacked up on top of one another. So it's nothing. Technically, once you get more than 10 layers, it's graphite. But actually, it's a brand new world-changing material, which will be the foundation of a new industrial revolution. The space elevator is part of it. But the consequence of all that thinking is that people are doing what Pete was saying. So my copy of my talk's on the ISEC website already, but I'll send you a PDF anyway. But already in Korea, as Pete says, there are 2 industrial companies out there that can make graphene at meters per minute speed in lengths of a kilometer already. But that graphene is monolayer and stuck on copper foil. You then have to separate it, and then once you've separated it, you have to layer it up at kilometer lengths. That's a non-trivial activity at the moment. Nobody is funding the work on that at the moment, because why would you make graphite, is what they're saying, because they're focused on making monolayer graphene or less than 10 layers for electronics, because that's where they see the applications. And the community is now, Rod Ruoff in Korea gets this. He's one of the few, but the rest of the community out there don't fully understand the mechanical marvel that this new engineering material will be.
We talked a little bit about investors, and investors are part of the general public. And I just have a hard time believing that you're going to find investors willing to put in many millions until they can see for themselves that you can pick up something really heavy on a ribbon that is simply all that ribbon needs is to be scaled up. It's the same material that you're going to use for the real thing. It just needs to be scaled.
And here's the chicken and egg. To get to that point, and I'll bring Steve into the conversation in a second, but to get to that point where you've got this even 1 meter length of graphene laminate, you're going to need millions of dollars to do that, but you can't
Okay.
get the millions of dollars until you've got the material. So you're in chicken and egg. So you need a really good return on investment idea. And that's why Steve's stuff is so valuable. I don't know if you want to say a few words, Steve, on that.
Well, I wanted to address a couple of Douglas's questions. I've done a lot of technology transition, a lot of technology development, and technology adoption is a lot of psychology, and most people reject anything new. That's number one. Number two is you're dealing with rocket people. They don't want us to be successful because that's where they make their money, is in rockets. So they're going to fight you all the way. You know, Musk and everybody else has been making tons of money in rockets. They don't want to see us successful. They've been doing the same old stuff for decades. So, and the thing is that also with the space elevator, if you're talking heavy lift and you're talking a lot of capability and really setting up the space development, space economy, that's decade two away, even if you had trillions of dollars to go off on doing it. As a result, when you're talking to investors, you have to show that there's spin-off of these technologies that developing. Now, there's a target zone for like the tether material. There's a target of, for me, it's more about tensile strength to weight ratio. There's that's the metric you need to be tracking. And if you look at it, if we say we need a certain level of that, and right now we're a tenth of that, well, could that material still be used in other industries? If so, that's where you make your near-term money for investors by showing them there's a lot of spin-offs. As you climb up, I'll get 10%. Okay, these industries could use that. I get 25%. Well, these other industries are now interested. And what you show is a stair step of here's all the ways to port this technology into other industries that have no trouble adopting it. And that's the trick, is you have to show performance and adoption. And that's where the investors can start seeing, hey, this is how we make our near-term money. Because they don't want to wait decades unless they're, you know, a real visionary who wants to be, say, hey, I was the father of, you know, making this thing happen 20 years ago. So anyways, my 2 cents.
I also think, as well as just in parallel to what Steve said, Doug, there's something that you do which is really helpful for the whole field, which is helping sort of people visualize what the material actually could be. I mean, your book is based on real science. And if, by the way, if anybody wants to read a really good science fiction book, read Doug's book. It's excellent. And by sort of making the graphene tether sort of real in a book, that's part of the job that needs to be done. It's the marketing story getting out there as well. Because as Steve said, you know, there are barriers out there. If you're familiar with force field analysis, you've got forces that work for you and forces that work against you. And the big thing is working out which is which, so you know you're doing the right thing in the right way. And we've got to convince the rocket community that there's things in it for them, and try and reduce the restraining forces that are acting on us from that direction. And also, it helps with, you know, if I know companies that have applied for government grants to make graphene laminate type of materials, they end up going in front of a panel of the world's experts on 2D materials. Half of the experts say, yeah, I get this idea, it's fantastic. The other half say, no, it's just graphite, ignore it. And you end up with the best 50% when you need 70, 80, 90% pass mark to get the funding. So there's all that sort of dynamic going on as well.
I want to combine Adrian and Pete's comments from his pitch, that it's not the rocket people you want to try to convince, because you won't convince them. That's where they make their money.
Well, good point.
What you need to do is look at who are the customers of the rocket community. Those are the people that you have to convince your stuff is way better than rocket people. Because rocket people are always going to fight you. It's the customers, the satellite people, the people who want to settle space, the governments that want a cheaper way to get to the moon. You know, those are the true customers, not the rocket people.
Okay, if anybody wants to cross their fingers, okay, this is the time to do it. In 2 weeks, there's going to be a conference down in Sydney, the International Astronautical Congress, which I'm going to be presenting too many papers. Writing them is a bummer. But anyway, Mr. Bezos is supposed to be getting an award. So what I want to do is figure out one of my friends that can get me in the door to see Mr. Bezos. And my approach is basically going to be that what he needs to do is think FedEx instead of Blue Origin. He needs to concentrate on movement of cargo to space versus how it's done. And if I can just get in the door for 1 minute and say, think FedEx, and when you want to start thinking FedEx to space, come talk to me.
You mean Amazon?
Think Amazon. Yeah.
I mean, Amazon. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've misspoken. Amazon. Yeah, think Amazon. And then, maybe he can give me a ride back from Sydney to
Yeah, in
we
his
can
private
talk on
jet.
the airplane.
Great.
So, while we're wishing, make sure you cross your fingers. And I have failed miserably the last 10 years doing anything like this, but, I at least came up with this idea. I come up with ideas all the time.
Well,
We
Doug,
have
it's
reached the nominal end of the conference, and Larry's Zoom account may cut us off, but we can keep going. If you
Doug,
want,
Experiment. We'll see if it does.
okay.
hey Doug, think of
Paul,
it as
Paul had his hand up and put
Oh.
it down. Paul, have you given up?
No, I only wanted to mention two items. Number one is in regards to what Pete was saying, our academic challenge 2026 is actually asking to use AI technologies for planetary defense. In other words, what can you do with the space elevator at the apex anchor or in the orbit or whatever, using AI technologies for planetary defense? And the other one I wanted to mention for Mr. Phillips is I'm also the chair of education, and I'm out trying to get the word out to high school students, college students about space elevator. I'm working on one that, if it works, there are normally around 28,000 entries in the competition, right? So that will get it out. It's global, so it gets more of the word out about the space elevator. And their thing was to compare a space elevator system and a rocket system to deliver materials to build a 10,000 person moon colony. Right. So not only a timeline, but a cost and all that. So they get to do all that and find out how long would it take and how much would it cost to do it by rockets, and how long would it take and how much would it cost to use the space elevator with 3 galactic harbors. So anyway, that was all I wanted to say. So I'm all done now.
Hey Doug, I'd like to use an analogy of a rocket's a Ferrari. Get you there fast, but you have a glove compartment to put stuff in. Space elevator is an 18-wheeler. If you need to move a bunch of stuff, a rocket's not the way to do it.
Blaise?
So, a couple of times today, we've had people say, obviously, there's going to be lights on the elevator. At ISDC, I remember, I think Pete was talking about having multiple legs to the elevator, so that if there's a debris impact that severs one of them, there's a few other legs that are still there to hold us up. But then on the flip side, I see we're designing these climbers that really they need a pretty much perfect ribbon coming in one end and going out the other, and there's really no provision for going around lights and things like that. And so I'm kind of curious how we should go about getting these two visions to connect.
Yeah, I know that the idea of guy wires is, as you say, it's used a lot, and I don't think it's been simulated dynamically, but that is something that GTOS can do.
Yes.
As
Yeah, I
far
think
as the
that-
lights are concerned, I always
Yeah.
thought it would be sufficient, since the tether is quite reflective, simply to shine a bright light from the surface up the tether. It should still be clearly visible for any altitude that an aeroplane would go to.
You got to go back to FAA requirements. It's any international type of thing is you're expected to have lights every so many feet. So if you want to change the law, then okay.
Do they have to be on it, or could they be projected onto it? That is a good question.
I think they usually hung on it, but
Hmm.
remember, FAA is all about safety. Doesn't matter convenience. And if you say, well, okay, can you shine it up when there's clouds around? There's always a hanging light on something. Look at any kind of radio tower, other
That
aircraft,
apply in
anything.
international waters?
Do you think they turn the lights off when they're flying over the ocean?
No. The question is the application of that law in international waters? I don't know the answer to that. But we have to remember we want to be on the equator in the middle of the Pacific. There are no airplanes flying in that region. They don't go any place across there. Now we want to have NOTAMs out saying don't fly here, you dummy. And we probably have reflective lights, but we could probably work something. This is one of those 1,000 questions we don't know the answer to.
How about the multipod? Like, how do you get our climbers to get past the intersection point? Like, there's so many cases where, oh, it would be great to have this feature, but the climbers just don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
LEDs don't weigh much. You could run right over LEDs with rubber tires. So,
But getting past the guy wires and things, yeah, I see what you
what
mean.
guy wires? What do we need guy wires for? What do we need a guy wire for?
I think you're the
I've
one who was
seen
talking about
diagrams of-
having. I think you're the one who was talking about having, multiple elevators connecting and then into one main elevator, so that if there's a debris impact and one of them severs, the other two or whatever are still there to hold the load.
Okay, you're talking about more mature infrastructures, and I agree there might be potential ones like that in the future. Yes. I don't know how to handle it though, Blaze.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, let's see. Martina's next.
I have a question about the human aspects. We have been focusing a lot on the technology yesterday and today, except for maybe like surveying people, like would you use it, when would you use it, and stuff like that. Has there been involvement of people like medical doctors and psychologists to see like what's needed from like human physiology and psychology, like pre-flight, during, and post? Well, it's not exactly flight, but like pre-travel, during, after.
National Space Society has a lot of that. At the ISDC, there's a whole section on that kind of thing. So
With respect to elevators?
I don't think we have any MDs as members yet.
Yeah, I do not believe we have anybody who's looked at that. That's point one. Point two is I don't believe it'd be any different than a requirement for an astronaut going on a rocket. You've got the same threats, you've got vacuum, you've got temperature profiles, you've got long duration, you've got small accelerations or whatever. It'd be the same as an astronaut going to space, almost 100%. So
only easier because there's less acceleration.
Right. So maybe you are talking about like equivalent to suborbital flights, when like basically person needs to be able to just handle like a roller coaster,
right,
to be able to go on suborbital flight. Though, like one thing with suborbital flight is that they are saying if you can handle a roller coaster, you can like fly to space for whatever, 10 minutes. But also the thing with these flights is that the person gets back very quickly. So if there is emergency, they are on the ground quicker than you would be able to help them like during that 10-minute whatever microgravity. But when you have a space elevator, it's like for several days, right? So it will be like a little different, maybe something in between suborbital flights, but maybe not as rigorous as as like the orbital ones.
Yeah, we could have a good paper on that topic. Do you want to do that next year? It has not been addressed that I know of. So you could have a nice little unique arena that you could contribute in.
Right, right. Like one organizations I'm involved with is OSMED, Organization for Space Medicine, Engineering and Design, where they are trying to overlap, like sometimes design, engineering, and space medicine don't overlap, or maybe 2 out of 3 overlap, but not all 3 always. So they are trying to change that. So I'll try to put a link, but yeah, maybe we can see if there is like potential of collaboration between like your space elevator organization and the OSMED organization.
Yes, we would love that.
You know, that reminds me a little bit of the old days when you would go to Antarctica. You would have to have your appendix removed before you made the trip.
Right.
And your back teeth pulled.
You know, they are considering like having this requirement for astronauts who will be flying like to deeper space to have appendix removed.
Yeah.
It makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah, if you're going to go to Mars, you know, there's not too many hospitals on the way, so
Yeah.
it's a very good point.
Well,
Okay, we have,
you will probably have a doctor on board, but which specialty? You will have a bunch of robots. Like there is like whole field of like space medicine for like long duration and deep space. But I'm always like thinking about like single point of failure, you know, like if you send a doctor, what specialty, if something happens to them, that single point of failure, you know, you can bring robots and stuff, but again, like what capability it has. Like it's a cool topic with like impacts on like Earth medicine, including like remote medicine and military and stuff.
One place where the elevator is more challenging than rockets, to kind of react to Peter's comment earlier, is the radiation belts. I think if you're going up high, you're going to spend a lot more time in them than lunar astronauts would if they're going up in a rocket. So that may be an interesting place to look.
But you will still be in the Earth's magnetosphere, right?
Yeah, but you'll be at the Van Allen radiation belts.
Does it go
the
above?
radiation, the magnetic field traps radiation, and so you have to go through that.
Well,
the astronauts on the ISS don't experience that. The only human beings who've ever experienced the Van Allen radiation belts were the Apollo astronauts.
Right. Well, even worse than that, once you get past the Van Allen belts, you get the radiation from the open source in space, and it's like 4 times worse than LEO when you're in open space, going to Mars and stuff like that. So, yeah, the radiation is an issue that we have to provide. That's why I keep saying, let's do logistics for a while. We'll worry about people.
Let's just shift cargo to begin with, and then later on worry about people. So by which time we'll know a lot more about what people are likely to experience.
Perhaps a suntan on the inside. It's not something you'd really want.
Suntan, yeah. TJ?
Hey guys, I just want to thank you guys for an awesome conference. This is my first time sort of encountering this community. I think it's a really great community. And I just got 2 quick questions. One is there besides the newsletter, is there a way to continue the conversation with some of the excellent people here? Is there like a Discord or a WhatsApp or like some sort of group? And the second question is, if someone is interested in contributing their expertise to some of these questions and for the organization, like what's the process to do that, I guess?
Just email me or Larry or Pete or Adrian. Basically, I think all of our emails are on the ISEC webpage.
I believe we connected on LinkedIn last night.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Perfect. I'll reach out to you there too then.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can talk to anybody who you think is appropriate to your topic. And we don't have a Discord or anything like that, but I think we're all pretty much approachable and tend to always answer our emails.
Yeah, LinkedIn is very active. Peter Robinson does a very good job there. We put our newsletter on it and a whole bunch of stuff. So LinkedIn is very, very good. And, you know, then if you look at the website, we have 3 studies going on. And if you wanted to contribute to one of those, you could hook into whoever's leading those. And So there are different ways to participate, and definitely we look forward to you next year at the conference.
And of
Awesome.
course,
Thank you, guys.
you can always join ISEC too.
Yes.
Absolutely. $50 a year is cheap.
If you're a student, it's less, isn't it?
It's $25 a year for a student, yes.
But then the other thing is, you can also join a study. The studies are outlined on the ISEC website. So if you have a particular expertise that would come in handy, we welcome that.
Yep. And you don't have to be a member to join the study, although we would like it.
But enthusiasm is always welcome, even without specialist expertise.
Okay, any other topics that we should be talking about?
Well, let me toss out a challenge to everybody. We have had some pretty good successes recently with the British Interplanetary Society. In the summer of 23, we had 2 magazines, the Journal and the Spaceflight, and we had 11 articles published. And periodically we get 1 or 2 published. Paul has done the Room magazine, which is an international space magazine. We've done other magazines also, but what we'd like to do is kind of enthusiastically support people to write articles for journals in their professional field. Like IEEE, I don't belong to that, but they've got all kinds of stuff in space. If we could do an article on the space elevator aspects of IEEE, that would be good. Astronomy, maybe planetary defense would be a good one to pursue. My suggestion is in your professional field where you're operating, maybe there's a paper in your future. Also, in parallel, maybe there's a presentation in your future. We support with all kinds of slides and charts. You can steal them from our website, all that kind of stuff. And then you could participate in the organization you're working with and present the topic of space elevators in your environment. I've been encouraging that. We've had a few little successes here and there. I think it's really a great way to have outreach. And we've had pretty good success in some areas. Nobody volunteered to do IEEE, huh?
We do have a couple of IEEE members, I know that.
Yeah, I know. And they have some great magazines too, so journals, they should call them.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that like some additional topics that could be added that are related are like the things like nutrition, like before, during, and after the travel of the humans. And you have like people who are focusing on space nutrition. I know some of them, so I can make recommendations. And another thing is like architecture of the elevator itself, right? Like it will need to have things like bathrooms. You are there for 4 days going up, right? Then it comes with things like
yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Olga Banova, she's a professor at the University of Houston, I believe it is, and she has a whole discipline, and she's a department chair for space architecture. See, now her definition of space architecture is designing the living quarters, living aspects of humans in space. So she has a tremendous reputation over the last 15, 20 years of really having conceptual ideas, and she runs design studies every year in the students. And those are the questions they're asking. How many bathrooms do you need? All that kind of stuff. That's kind of trivial, but those are the types of questions. And it's very, very interesting. Then there's the guy at USC, Madhu, I've forgotten his last name, Madhu. He's a professor at USC, does the same thing. So you're right, Martina, there's a whole arena there for long duration space elevator travel. Because it takes 2 weeks to get to Apex Anchor, and if we're going to have workers up there doing, say, planetary defense, they might be up there for 3 months and then come back. So How do we put a human facility at the apex anchor or at geosynchronous spaceport for construction of space solar power satellites or something? But you're right, there's a whole arena of human aspect we have not addressed. Now, if you want to address that area, you'll be in trouble because my wife will review all your reports. She wrote her PhD dissertation in 1983 on a long duration space flight. So she loves that topic, so she could talk to you anytime. But it's an area we have not addressed, and you could do a paper on that next year and stand out, because that would be a neat topic.
Yeah, I'll consider that.
The closest we got to that was the paper that we wrote on a space train, which is continually going between Mars and the Earth, continually. And when you get to the space elevator, you get to a station, get on the thing, and on that space elevator, space train would be living facilities, eating facilities, working facilities, sleeping facilities. So we did write a paper on that. So that's a little bit.
Yeah, that's a expansion from Buzz Aldrin's cycler. It turns out the cycler is a fantastic concept, which is it rotates between the Earth and the Mars planetary orbits. And so all you do is you take a little ship up, and then you get into a cruise ship. And the cruise ship cruises to Mars, and then you get off on a little ship to Mars. And the cruise ship keeps going around in cycles around the environment between the two planets. And it's really brilliant. So we did a spin-off on that. The up and down to the planets was done by space elevators. They rendezvoused with space elevators. And for a short period of time, they had the exact same characteristics in orbit. So you could transfer between little things. So we expanded on that, and we talked about exactly what you're talking about, which is how do you spend 9 months on a cruise ship in long duration space flight? What do you need? All that kind of stuff. So it was a neat paper. I'd forgotten about that, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, do you have a link or at least like a name, like how?
You have
how
to
I
ask
can
Paul. I
find it?
don't remember.
Yeah, it's on the website under studies, and it's called Galactic Space Train.
Okay, thank you.
It was kind of fun to do.
It was fun to do, yeah. Except I had to do orbital calculations, and it'd been 50 years. That was a bummer. How fast is it? How fast is the elevator at 90 instead of 100,000, 90,000 kilometers? I had to come up with the velocity of a interplanetary orbit there. Bummer.
Yeah, David is already messaging that it's not under studies.
Oops. I guess,
Yeah.
okay, well, that I've got an action item to send it to him because I still have the PDF copy that we published.
Yeah, maybe it's gonna be uploaded to the like.
Oh, I'll give it to David. He uploads it to the studies, so it'll be under there. So
Oh, he's the master of what's uploaded.
yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I think maybe I don't see any hands up. We may be winding down.
I put the URL for that study. I don't know what page it's on because the URL is more complex. That goes directly to it.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis and Larry and whoever else helped. I really appreciate this conference. It was really neat, and I'm glad we had the conference versus some other alternatives. This was really good.
I'm thinking this worked well enough. I mean, what would prevent us from holding workshops more frequently than once a year?
Agreed.
I agree.
Yeah, you could do it once a quarter. How many people signed up for this conference? I looked at it and I had 48 yesterday and 48 today, but they're not necessarily the same people.
So we had total number of registrants for day one was 86. And for day two, the total number of registrants was 68.
Yeah, there's probably a big overlap between the two.
There is.
Yeah, but that's still a lot of people.
That is a lot
People
of
registered then and didn't show up.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
maybe they're waiting for the recording.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're waiting for the movie.
Yes, I'm quite pleased by the attendance. So this has been a success.
Yes.
And if you can keep it free, you're definitely going to get more people each
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we like to have in-person conferences, but I understand people can't pay for travel here and there all the time. So
Dennis,
I'd be worried about doing it too often because then people will start not coming to all of them, and you'll have more fragmentation maybe.
yeah. Oh, I
Well,
hear here's Lauren.
yeah. Well,
Go
the
ahead,
one
Lauren.
thing the one thing you can do is have focused ones. One time will be focused only on this, another one might be focused only on this topic, and that way you can still get a lot of people coming, but for different areas. That's all.
Lauren?
Yes, thank you so much. I decided to finally speak because I have been putting things in the comments because I was concerned about a lot of different things, but this has been fabulous. This was my first time. And my partner and I, who I'm in East Coast, he's in West, and we both share an interest for this. And this is just really fantastic. And I'm so pleased that there is a competition. And I have a close friend who has been a consultant to museums and various things around the world. And I'll be in touch with her because I'm reaching out to her to find out what she's doing now to see if she can affect some folks where she lives. She's in the south of France these days. But I think it's fantastic to be able to spur enthusiasm and really get this thing going. And let's get it going before 20 years, for heaven's sake.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So let's see what we can do.
I'm
So
doing
thanks
my
again. And I definitely look forward to the next one. And I'll be joining.
Great. We look forward to having you.
Thank you.
Not work any harder, Captain.
I need warp drive and I need it now. Yeah, I think on that note, maybe we should wrap up. Thank you all the attendees for showing up and all your discussion. That was great. That's one reason why we usually spend so much time on unstructured discussion, because that's a lot of fun.
Dennis, I'll just highlight one thing. Doug has put a note in chat saying offering a link to a free ebook. That's kind of you, Doug.
Okay.
Is that Ascending Carbon?
Yeah, so I just threw that out there. If anybody wants a copy of the book, you don't have to buy it. Just send me an email. I'll send it to you. It is an ebook, though. It's not a paperback.
I've read it. It's really, really good.
Yep, it is.
Yep. Well, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, everybody else. It's been
Larry
really
set
good.
up the Zoom and found all the secret buttons, and so
yeah,
he was the one who was running it behind the scenes there.
I've learned so much about Zoom in the last 2 days.
You can
well
teach
done.
me, Larry. Thanks, chaps.
Okay, I think we can adjourn now.